afternoon and very good evening. These are our top stories for tonight. Just as it was over 100 years ago, hundreds of people gathered opposite the main seaport to farewell the 150 men in 1915, Niue's contribution to the war effort with the Anzacs. A moment of silence to remember them and their sacrifice, and to remember the former patron of the Niue RSA, Sasalu Aukuso-Pavihi, and Mrs. Makapuhenga, and other members who recently passed away. In attendance were government ministers, members of parliament, Boys and Girls Brigade, and the families of those 150 warriors from Niue. Also in attendance was the New Zealand government delegation led by Under Secretary of Foreign Affairs Fletcher Tapetio. Higgins Yosikefu of the Niue RSA, in his opening address, expressed on behalf of the RSA deepest sympathies to the people of New Zealand for the tragic loss of 50 lives to the terror attacks in Christchurch last month. Mr. Tapetio spoke of the heavy hearts of the wives, families and friends left behind by these men as they left to fight for peace and security in the world. Honourable Billy Talangi summed up the speeches by asking the poignant question, how peaceful is our world today? And to never forget that love will always prevail over evil, and that is why we will never forget the sacrifices of the men who fought in the First World War and all conflicts since then, lest we forget. The bilateral talks between the Government of Niue officials and official delegation from the New Zealand government were held at the Whalefono last Thursday.
Fletcher Tapetio, who is the Under Secretary of Foreign Affairs of the New Zealand government, says that his role at these talks is to listen, as he is the representative of the Right Honourable Winston Peters, the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
I'm here primarily to listen, so that is my focus on my visit here.
Mr. Tapetio said that the conversation will cover a number of focus areas that New Zealand have supported over the years, such as education with literacy and numeracy, as well as economic development, to name two of these areas.
Some of the commitment that is needed here in Niue around early childhood education, ongoing literacy and numeracy programs. We've been talking about our scholarship program, making sure that's working and successful for Niue graduates. And that's just in the education space. So there's a lot of conversation around and a lot of support from New Zealand around economic development. So what does that look like? How can we be of assistance? How can we best maximise not only our contribution, but how best can we support? So just two of the many topics I'm sure we'll be talking about.
The bilateral talks provides the opportunity for the government officials of the two governments to have a conversation about this long-standing relationship. This is also an opportunity for the Under-Secretary to promote the New Zealand government's Pacific Reset policy.
It's important to understand that part of what New Zealand is doing is, for example, my role as I've been politely called the Deputy Minister, but I'm technically what's called an Under-Secretary. And one of my formal jobs is to help the Right Honourable Winston Peters, our Foreign Affairs Minister, in our relationship with the Pacific. We're taking that relationship seriously, and we think that takes more than one person from New Zealand's cabinet, from our senior ministers. And so that's part of my job, to literally be here to look everyone in the eye and not let it just be words about a reset, but let it be true and meaningful about saying kia ora, saying hello, and making sure that we're actually here to listen. And that's a very important part of the Pacific Reset and New Zealand's refocus across the entire Pacific, but of course especially here in Niue.
The closing of the Taonga Niue Festival took place at the Commercial Centre last Thursday evening, which began with the Wearable Arts Show, entertaining acts by Ana Tukitonga, Hans Licky and Pet Lim, the Cook Islands Dance Troupe, and final act by Malcolm Lakatani. The organisers thanked the many volunteers and the different groups who all helped make this festival a success. But all this would not have happened without the talented Niueans from abroad and on island for showcasing their art and their crafts. A gravestone in the village of Avasele was damaged over the weekend, believed to have caused by a motor vehicle.
The grave is one of the oldest in the area. The Avasele Village Council spokesperson Poi Vakanofisi says that the village is very concerned about this, as the person involved has not come forward to inform the village of what happened. He said that in these types of incidents, the traditional protocols must be followed, which is the long-standing cultural practice of the village. He asked that the person who is responsible or those who may know to please come forward so the village and the family can perform these traditional protocols and rebuild the grave. Mr. Vakanofisi today informed BCN News that the village members have rebuilt the grave yesterday afternoon, but he is very concerned that the person responsible for the damage may have already left the island yesterday. This is Esther Pavihi for BCN News.
New Zealand Parliamentary Under-Secretary for Foreign Affairs Fletcher Tabutio was in the country last week and opened the New Zealand High Commission, which replaces the building constructed around 70 years ago. Tabutio says that the new High Commission reinforces New Zealand's continued commitment to its presence in Niue and highlights the strength of our special and enduring relationship. Whilst in Niue, Tabutio held talks with the government of Niue, attended the Anzac Day commemorations, met with regional education leaders, business representatives and local stakeholders. That ends our news for tonight. Have a great evening. See you next time. Nōna whā, moi moruina.